Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys now how to start the drawing for the... We're going to start this off the same way as the pliers. If you guys look, a sensor line that goes all the way down the middle of the board that has the tool on it. We're going to do the same thing over here on the paper, and if you notice too, the paper that you're drawing on is the same size as the board, so that's just to help you guys just see sort of how everything sort of is spaced out and proportioned a little bit better. If everything's the same size, it helps. So, first thing I'm going to do is we're going to draw this line that goes down the middle. So I'm going to put this off to the side, and then what you guys are going to do is you're going to take your ruler. You want to put your ruler, and I'm going to go ahead and zoom in. So you want to make sure that your paper is nice and tall. Take your ruler and make sure you put, your zero mark here at the end of your paper, up at the top. I'm going to zoom in. And what you're going to do is you're going to divide half. So you'll notice that the paper is about 12 inches wide. So 12 divided by 2 is 6, right where it says 6. Now, you want to make sure that when and as always, I'm drawing dark so it just shows up on the video. So take that in consideration. Now, to make your mark down here, do not turn on just the bottom of your and do the same thing down here at the bottom. Make sure that your ruler is at 0 and you're matched up at the end of your paper, and make a mark right here at 6. Okay, so just like that. And then what you're going to do is turn your paper, so now that it is wide and horizontal, you're going to now take your ruler, match up those two marks, and draw your line across. Now again, draw your line very lightly. I'm drawing my line dark so it shows up on the video. So that way now, when you turn it back the way it needs to be, you have a sensor line on your paper just like the board has. Kind of hard to show everything. There we go. Alright, so that matches this. So this is the same thing as that. Okay. Now, after you get through that step, then what we want to do is start mapping out where our tool needs to go. Now, we want our tool to be in the center of the paper, just like that is. We're going to just eye it in the middle, just like I did when I put the tool on the board. So on the wrenches, the thing that's nice about the wrenches is if you look at the wrench's handle, it actually tells you how tall the wrench is. And this is 10 inches, a little hard to see because the zip tie that's there. But if you want to just make sure, you can take your ruler and measure exactly how tall it is. Okay, 10 inches tall. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my tool off here to the side. And again, while you're doing this stuff, you guys can take the tool off the easel and kind of measure and mark and kind of pass sitting next to you so they get a chance to measure and mark too. So what I'm going to do is I've got my 10 inches here, and I need to center it. And again, I'm just going to kind of eye this in the middle. I'm guessing. And once I feel like I've got that 10-inch measurement there centered, then I'm going to make a mark here at 0 and a mark here at 10. And I'm going to kind of look at that and see if that looks like it's centered. I think it's a little, need to drop it down a little bit. So again, a lot of times you don't know if you're right until you do it wrong first, so that's fine. I'm going to go ahead and move that down and change these marks. That looks better. Again, this doesn't have to be perfect. So I'm just going to darken these. Looks better. So again, the base that I have now drawn is the height of my tool. So this is where my tool is going to go. Alright, so the next step we're going to do on these wrenches is we want to figure out how wide the wrench is going to be down here at the bottom. And if you look at the handle, it's wider here at the bottom, and then it gets smaller as it goes up here to the neck of the tool, which I consider this kind of the neck. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure how wide it is here. I am no longer using this ruler, okay, so I'm going to set that off to the side. And all I'm going to do is just use my hands to kind of measure and mark. So I'm going to measure how wide it is right here. And I'm going to try to center this. I'm actually going to just mark the one side. Do this again. And I'm just going to kind of finish this off, I'm going to kind of even it out and make a mark right here. And again, I'm just guessing. And I'm going to, after I get that on there, I'm going to compare it to what I have here, and that looks pretty close. So I'm going to keep that the way it is. So this represents how wide the tool is right there. Now, if you want to, and you want to get really picky about this, you can. You can measure it out, but honestly, I don't recommend it because I think when you start using those details, so I would just use your hands and measure it off like that. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I want to figure out where the neck of the tool is, so like this area right here. If you look on the wrench, there's this like kind of area where that's indented. I'm going to use this as my landmark because this is an area that's easy for me to see and identify rather than kind of going for a blank area like right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing I did before with, measuring how wide it is here. I'm going to use my hands. I'm going to measure from the bottom all the way to the top. And I'm going to mark it. So again, I'm saying that this is the same thing as the top of that indentation. So again, I'm going to measure and mark. And that looks like it's pretty close. So I'm going to keep that. Actually kind of raise it up a little bit. Now again, these are just guesses. I'm not going to know if any of this is right until I start drawing. But I need to know, I just got to figure out like where to start. And this gives me some places to start my drawing. So the next thing I'm going to do is I want to figure out where these kind of prongs are of the tool. Now, if you look on the wrench, it's a lot different than the pliers. Is that this is not symmetrical right here. So if you look at this right prong, you can tell that it actually hits, at least on my board, it goes right to that center line. And if you look too, this is the tallest part of my drawing, which makes it really easy for me because, to be honest with you, I already have where this needs to go on my paper. That is this mark right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of make a little X right there so I know that this is the same as that. Because again, this is the tallest part of my tool, and it hits this line. I know where that is already. It's right there. Okay. Now to figure out where this is, all I'm going to do now, if you look at this, you can tell that this is it's not as tall as this, so it needs to be lower. And if you look at how much space is between the top of the prong and that center line. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to measure this, and then I'm going to lower just a little bit and mark it. So again, I'm going to measure it and mark it. I think I'm going to bring it in a little bit. I'm going to make these marks a little bit bigger so they're easy to see. So I'm saying that this represents where that is where that is, and this is how wide that is. Now, the other thing I'm going to do too, one more thing I'm going to do before I stop, is I want to figure out how wide my tool is right here at the neck. So again, right here where I've already measured where this indentation is, or where the top of it is. So since I've already measured that out, I'm going to go ahead and measure how wide it is at that same spot. So again, I'm going to use my hands. I'm going to measure how wide this is here, and I'm going to mark. So all I'm doing is just mapping these things out. I'll make sure this looks symmetrical. Now again, these are just guesses. I'm not saying that this is exactly where things are going to go, but at the same time, I need a place to start, and this is going to give me a place to start. And you'll notice too that this is a little thinner than this. So on these tools, it's wider here at the bottom and thinner there. But this will give me something to start with, and then as I start plugging in my drawing, that'll help me fix and make adjustments to those measurements. So just to kind of point this out a little bit more, again, I've measured out how wide that is here. That's this part. Measured out where that indentation is. That's right there. I've also measured how wide my tool is at that part here. This is that, and that point is this. So if you can get to that point, that would be a good start.